Hey guys, it's nice to meet you. My name is Rex, and today I will show you how to configure a concept known as router on a stick, also ROS, configurations utilizing Cisco Packet Tracer. As you can see, we have three different VLANs, VLAN 10, 20, and 30. And we have just one interface here from the router connected to the switch. So with router on a stick, we are basically going to divide this one single interface up into just little, I would say like little, think of like a pizza. You're slicing up like three. For this particular example, we will divide it into three different sections. So let's go ahead and start with the router. We will go to the command line interface. The dialog box asks if we want to set up configure the initial configuration. We're just going to say no. Push enter. The whole command is enable, but you can type in N for short, and then configure terminal, or you can type in conft for sure, short. And as you can see, we are into the configuration mode of this router. The red upside down triangle signifies that this interface gig 0/0 is in a down state. We want to bring that interface up. So what we're going to do is say no shutdown. Oh, sorry guys. I jumped too far ahead. I'm going to say interface. I'm going to specify which interface I want to update or edit. Gig 0/0. Uh, you can see it's actually in the interface now. I'm going to say no. The command is no shutdown. You can type in no shut or no for short, and that would work as well. As you can see, now the layer 1 and layer 2 protocols are up. The layer 1 just being the cable itself. Layer 2 is up as well, which is the logical interface of this actual interface here. So now, typically you want to configure an IP address on the interface, but when you're dealing with a router on a stick, we're going to have that sliced up into multiple pieces. We're actually going to leave this one without an IP address, but um, when we configure the sub interfaces for gig 0/0, we will uh, configure IP addresses for those. So let's go ahead and exit. Now, now that gig 0/0 is up, let's go ahead and divide it up for the sake of router on stick. So type in interface gig 0/0, and then I'm going to make it dot 10. And for this sub interface, it's gonna be the corresponding interface for VLAN 10. Push enter. All right, so sub interface. And now, in order for us, we want to tell the router, hey, um, this traffic is tagged as VLAN 10 traffic. There's a few commands that we have to do. The first is going to be encapsulation um, dot 1Q. You might recognize dot 1Q as the same uh, tagging from trunk ports. Uh, Now, if you push question mark, it asks you for a VLAN ID. For me, it's easiest to just copy the VLAN number that is associated with this subinterface. So let's go ahead and just make it 10. And then boom. Now let's give this one an IP address as well. So IP address 192.168.1.1, 255.255.255.0. This is the slash 24 notation, just written out in decimal form. And I have the sub interface uh, with the IP addresses, the first IP address in the VLAN 10 network, because this is going to serve as the default gateway. And then, just for good measure, we see that the interface is up already. I'm still going to say no shutdown, just to be safe. You're right to save. Okay, so as far as VLAN 10 sub interface goes, that one's good to go. And then we basically do the same thing two more times for VLAN 20 and VLAN 30. So let's go ahead and do that. 20 caps, and you can type tab, and tab will automatically finish your command, assuming there's enough of it that the router can guess what you're typing. And let's give this one an IP address, 2.168. We want the first IP address of the VLAN 20 network, so it's going to be 2.1. That one's set up. Exit. And now let's set up the last sub interface for VLAN 30. And guys, I'm just going to move this over here for now so you can see VLAN 30 is 192.168.3.0. So we'll move this back. Okay. Um, so interface 30, like that. IP address. Oh, sorry guys, I got ahead of myself. Encapsulation dot 1Q. And again, the purpose of this command here is we're letting the router know that this sub interface is going to be tagging traffic for VLAN 30. And then we also have to include the VLAN ID. Or it could be any number, but um, just for make it easier for yourself, make it match the VLAN. So there we go. Oh, wait, I almost messed up. That is the network address. We can't use that. So do right. Now let's just double check how it work. I can actually just use do show run. There we go. Sorry, I had a typo on that last command. That's why it didn't work. So point 10, it's going to be VLAN 10's default gateway. It looks good. Point 20 is going to be VLAN 20's default gateway. Everything looks good. And point 30 is going to be VLAN 30's default gateway. That looks good. So we're done on the router. So I use do write to save it to the running configuration. The next step when the next thing we'll configure is the switch interface leading to the router, which is gig 0/1. Click on the router, go to the command line interface, enable CompT. Okay, so we have a situation where this router is going to be routing traffic to and from three different VLANs. We won't be able to use an access port uh, for this corresponding interface just because an access port would only typically support one VLAN. Um, Instead, we're going to use a trunk, and we want that trunk to support VLAN 10, VLAN 20, and VLAN 30. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll find the interface that we wish to head in. We'll say no shutdown, even though it's on, it's always a good measure to do that. And now we're going to say, hey, I want this interface to be a trunk. So we'll say switch port mode trunk. And now we want to include, well, actually first, let me do this real quick. Do show interfaces. trunk. If you look here at this information, you will see that VLANs allowed on the actual trunk itself is 1 through 1000. Typically, you don't want that because you just would typically want the VLANs on your network to be allowed access to uh, this interface leading up to the router. So let's go ahead and configure so only 10, 20, and 30 are allowed. We can say switch port, access, switch port, trunk, sorry guys, allowed, VLAN, 10, 20, and 30. Um, and typically you would want to change the native VLAN as well. Just for time's sake, I'm not going to do that, but I will show you the command for that. Switch port, trunk, native, VLAN, and then it would you could use whatever number you prefer. Now, if you do change the native VLAN, you have to do it with all other trunks that are connected, just because you will have errors. There will be errors that pop up on the switch. Okay, so we're just going to save that. All right, so this trunk port should be good to go. Let's go ahead and configure also the trunk port uh, going into VLAN 10. So in order to do that, we'll exit. We can actually, I'm going to show you a useful command that will allow us to configure this uh, this port, this interface, and this interface at the same time. So let's go ahead and try that. We're going to say interface, interface, range. So range being the key word here, it's a range of multiple interfaces that we're going to configure with one command, or so FO/1 and FO/2. So gamma FO/2. And if you did it right, you'll see it's a configure interface range. Now, we'll say switch port mode trunk, and then we can also say switch port trunk allowed VLAN 10, 20, 30. So same as configurations leading up to the router. These are okay. I'm not done here though. These two interfaces, F0/3, F0/4, they are going to PCs and VLAN 20. So let's go ahead and configure the interfaces as switch ports, access ports. So we can do the same thing as previously done. We can say interface range F0/3, F0/4, and then we'll say switch port mode, switch mode access, switch port access, and the specified VLAN layer. So we'll say do, oh wait, I'll also say no shutdown, even though they're on, just to be safe. Do right. And I'm not done with this switch just yet. We can see interface VLAN VLAN 20 has been created, but we still have to create the interface, the actual interfaces. So we're going to create the virtual LANs interface VLAN 10, and we're going to give VLAN 10 an IP address of the very last usable host for VLAN 10. 2.168.1.254 and the subnet mask. Do right. And I want to do that as well for the other interfaces. And that way the switch knows that these interfaces exist. So for this one, we're going to say, hey, switch, those VLAN 20, its IP address is going to be 192.168.2.254 255, 255, 255, 0. No shutdown. And then we'll exit out of that one. And then lastly, we will configure VLAN 30. We'll say no shutdown. And we will also going to give it the IP address of the last usable host address on VLAN 30, which is going to be 0.3254. There we go. So that is our configurations for this switch. Now, these are set up as well. I still have to assign them IP addresses. I could actually utilize DHCP and give them a dynamic IP address, but for the sake of time, I will do the DHCP on another video. So let's go ahead and configure switch 2 next. The very first thing I want to do is this interface is configured as a trunk. This one is not. So let's configure that trunk. Interface. Oh, sorry guys. I can't spell. Okay. I'm gonna say switch port mode trunk switch port trunk allowed VLAN 10 20 30. Well, do it right. And now I'm going to configure uh, these two as an access port to VLAN 10. So let's go ahead and do that. Exit. You don't have to exit, I just do that. Interface range F0/2. Sorry guys, set up brain fart. F0/3. And with this, I'm going to say switch port, mode, access, switch port, access, VLAN 10. Right? Oh, and guys, by the way, I am not using I'm not using DTP or VTP, so these trunks will not relay information to each other. So I'm just going to manually type in the VLANs 10, 20, and 30 and their corresponding IP addresses on this switch as well as the next switch. So let's go ahead and do that. Interface VLAN 10, IP address 192.168.1.254, 255, 255, 250, interface VLAN 20, IP address 192.168.2.254. Okay, interface VLAN 30, IP address 192.168.3.254, 255, 255, 250. Do right. Let's just make sure the VLANs have been created. So we have the switch ports up, we have the trunk up. Let me just scroll down a little bit more and we'll see. So yep, the VLANs are good to go. Just make sure there's no typos. I'm gonna exit out of this one. And now we have this trunk configured, these two access ports configured. Let's go ahead and configure this last switch. And it's basically going to be the same commands as the first two. Sorry, this is an awkward spot. It's probably easy to tell that this is one of my first videos I've ever made, so please bear with me, guys. Um, okay, so enable conf t. Which port do I want to be a trunk? FO/2. Interface. We'll say switch port. We'll trunk. Switch port. Trunk. Allowed. VLAN. 10, 20, 30. You right. Okay, now since I have two interfaces here that I want to configure the exact same way as access ports to VLAN 30, I'm just going to use interface range FO slash 1, F, oh, sorry, I had a space, FO slash 2. All right, so I'm going to say switch port, mode, access, wait a minute, switch port, access, VLAN 30. Do right. What is this error? So let me just say do show IP do show run. Let me see this here. So do show. Did I not make that a trunk? Okay. Oh, I guess I forgot. Sorry guys. Switch port. I got that error because um this interface was like, hey, there's no trunk here, and like they kind of have a little bit of a argument there. But it's really easy to fix. I set up the trunk and I'm going to say, hey, I want VLAN 10, 20, and 30 to be the only VLANs usable in this trunk link. All right, and I'm going to configure the VLANs on the switch as well. I'm not going to use no shutdown that much on oh, I'm at the straight to 30. Sorry guys, I was confused myself. I'm not going to use no shutdown straight on the VLANs themselves because when you type in interface VLAN so and so, they automatically change to an up state. Okay, so I'm just gonna make sure I skipped VLAN 20. So yeah. Uh-oh. What did I do wrong? Okay, I see now. I missed a period. There we go. Okay. And interface VLAN 20. Thank you everyone for sticking with me here. I'm sorry, I know I'm making a lot of mistakes. 255, 255, 250. Do right. And I'm just gonna make sure I'm gonna type in do show run just to make sure we have everything set up as intended. Um, hmm, this one is saying it's not. You know, I might have made a mistake. I might have configured these two as access ports. That's why that one link, the interface was complaining. But now that this is a trunk, I will just go back and configure this one back as an access port to VLAN. Pretty. I like to check these just because it really, if you every time you configure a switch on Cisco Packet Tracer or a router, if you just check your configurations after you've made them, it just makes life a lot easier. You don't have to go back and figure out where's the mistake at. Okay, so yeah, it looks like everything is ready except interface FO slash 3, and it's perfectly fine because it's really easy to fix. Access. You're right. Let's just make sure that that worked. And now we can see fast Ethernet 0/3. This link, interface, guys, sorry, is configured as an access point for VLAN 30. So that's set up. The only thing we should have to do next is configure either using DHCP to dynamically assign these as IP addresses, as with IP addresses, or statically assign those. So let's go ahead. We'll say my next video, I'll show you how to do the uh, what am I doing? I'm going to go configuration mode. With a static setup, the default gateway is going to be the connection to the router. And for VLAN 10, that connection is 192.168.1.1. Correction, guys. A connection to the router, or if it's a layer 3 switch that's routing the traffic. IPv4 address for this PC, let's go ahead and use 192.168.1. We can use any number between uh, 2 and 250, 253. Let's just say, I don't know, 4. And subnet mask, that is the slash 24 net, subnet mask. And let's go ahead and do the same thing with PC3 on VLAN 20. So, I don't know, I keep doing that. My brain isn't braining. Okay, so the default gateway for VLAN 20, so the connection leading to the routable device is going to be uh, the sub interface for VLAN 20, which is going to be 192.168.2.1 fast Ethernet. 192.168.2. Let's make this one 4 as well. That way it's easy to remember. And I'm going to configure PC4 on VLAN 30. I'm not going to configure the other computers just because, for the sake of time, I don't want this video to be too long. So the default gateway for VLAN 30. Sorry guys, I'm having very far. So that's the connection, the sub interface leading to the router. And we'll make this one the same thing, so it's really easy to memorize. And now, let's first see if VLAN 10 can talk to this PC in VLAN 20. So I'll go to desktop command prompt, and we'll say ping 2.168.2.4. Okay, so that did not work. Okay, well, let's see. Uh, Let me try to ping. Oh, no, that's the term I mean, sorry. Let's try command prompt. Ping 4. Well, that's doing that. I'm just gonna double check and make sure that's the IP address that I assigned here. Firmware configuration. Fast Ethernet. 1.4. Okay. So it doesn't seem to be working, which is fine. Let's find out where our mistake is made. I'm going to start off with the router. So the sub interface for VLAN 10 looks good. The sub interface for VLAN 20 looks good. The sub interface for VLAN 30 looks good as well. You can see that it's in an up position. And that should be all of our configurations that we have needed to make on this router. I'm not going to say do show IP interface brief on that just because I don't think it's needed. So let's check switch 3. There's a mistake somewhere, but with do show run and the other commands that you can use, it makes it easier to find out what's going on. So we have fast Ethernet 0/1. It looks good. It's a trunk and it's allowing 10, 20, and 30. So this connection, fast Ethernet 0/2, is also configured as a trunk and it's allowing 10, 20, 30. So those are good. 3 and 4 are assigned as VLANs, are assigned as access ports to VLAN 20. Those are fine. Let us make sure. Hmm, the trunk link looks good. 10, 20, and 30. I'm just checking for any typos that I could have made. They all look good. And if you wanted to be sure, typically if a interface would shut down, you'll see it say shut down at the bottom. Everything is up, up. Okay. So when I can see that VLAN 10 is in a down position and VLAN 30 is in a down position. So that's really easy to fix. We'll go to interface. Oh, and guys, sorry, I found that out right here. Down for VLAN 10 and for VLAN 30, down as well. So let's go ahead and put those up. They don't, if they're down, we won't be able to have communication. So interface 10. Um, and let's see. If I want those to be up, I will say there we go. I'm sorry, guys. So that one's up now, and then instead of that, I'll say belong 30. There we go. Okay, so let's just say do show IP interfaces brief. Oh, I always forget. OS. So now, since that was an issue with this switch, let's just, before we try to ping again, let's make sure um, that the other ones aren't messed up as well. As you can see, they are. So those are up, and I'm gonna do the same thing with this switch. And I'll get to that error a little bit. Mostly exit 1, 10, exit 20. The VLAN 30 should already be set up. So see if I can actually do a ping now. We'll just push up, and this time ping should work. If not, that's okay. We'll just do a little more troubleshooting and figure out what's going on. So there we go. We have our ping reply. So I know VLAN 10 can communicate with uh, VLAN 20, let's make sure VLAN 10 can also communicate to VLAN 30. So I'll remove this 2, put a 3. Okay, so that's looking good. We know VLAN 10 can communicate to both VLAN 20 and 30. Let's make sure VLAN 20 can communicate as well with VLAN 10 and VLAN 30 respectively. So VLAN 20 can communicate with VLAN 10. Okay, what about VLAN 30? Yep, so we are good. And our last test is let us make sure VLAN 30 communicate with 10 and 20. So VLAN 10 is perfect. Let us make sure also VLAN 20 can be communicated using VLAN 30. So that is it for this video. We have inter-VLAN connectivity utilizing router on a stick configurations.